Hi everyone, Kim here at Olive City Homestead, and it is good to be back. It has been, oh my goodness, I think 3 weeks, give or take a few days. I have been, as probably most of you, very busy. So today I am just going to be showing you some of the stuff that I am still harvesting. Lots of watermelon and winter squash and a few other things as well. And I thought, well, you guys might like to see that too and see what happens when you don't harvest soon enough, when you procrastinate and leave things for various reasons on the vines and plants too long. Well, there's some pros as well as cons to that, as you'll see. So make sure you stick around to the end because I'm going to show you my Red Roselle Hibiscus at the end. It took a long time to start budding and blooming, I think because it has been so hot over the summer, but it is now starting and it's beautiful, and I want you guys to see it and be thinking about what ideas you can give me to do with all the Red Roselle Hibiscus besides tea. And also, would you believe I'm still getting huge Armenian cucumber? I can hardly believe it. I haven't watered those plants in quite a while, thinking I would let them, just sort of taper off, sort of fade away, and they're not cooperating. Still producing these monsters. So without further ado, let's go take a look at my plants in the middle of this beautiful October day. I have my first eggplant growing. Yep. That's because this plant just volunteered toward the end of the summer. This was pin-tongue long purple eggplants that I grew a couple of summers ago. I don't remember if I grew one last summer, but clearly the seeds persisted and I have one growing now. Here amidst my overgrown okra bed and a melon and buckwheat and many such things, yes. Well, guys, I have a ton of watermelon and Hubbard squash and a pumpkin and some Amish pie squash in here, but mostly lots of watermelon. Like, we're talking dozens of big ones. But I have one fault. No, I have a lot of faults. But I have one weakness when it comes to gardening that I really am having a trouble conquering, no matter how long I've been gardening, and that is waiting too long to harvest. Sometimes with zucchini, for instance, it's because I just, don't see them. But sometimes it's because I'm not sure they're ripe, or because I just sort of have this mentality, maybe it comes from growing up kind of poor, that, I'll save it for later when I really need it. And so, oh goodness, this is horrible. You're going to hate this. I know I just did, but I have to laugh about it because it's too late to do anything about it. And that is, 2 days ago, this huge watermelon was fine, but today it came out and take a look. It has split wide open, this huge watermelon. Yeah. Well, the chickens will enjoy it. You can be sure about that anyway. I will have to take some comfort from that and maybe get the rest of the watermelon out of the patch today. Hopefully I'll learn my lesson about this. Well, I feel really proud of myself right now. I just harvested a bunch of watermelon, a couple of Hubbards, my pumpkin, and yes, there's more growing because actually when I was cutting these big ones out, I did find some new ones, and I don't know if they'll have time to develop, but we'll see. Lots of young Amish pie squash, but also there's a new pumpkin growing. Let me show you. See, right in here. Got a new pumpkin growing. And yes, lots of little Amish pie squash like that one. So we're just gonna, let the bed do its thing. And we'll see what happens. Maybe some more stuff will have time to ripen before, actual cold winter, meaning lower 40s, upper 30s maybe, gets here. All right, now I'm kind of motivated to go around and find anything else that looks like it's already ripe and get it off before it splits. Although I don't think butternut will split. I've never had that happen. But I'm going to be checking out all my butternut squash. Yeah, I have some other squash that's still definitely not ripe yet. There's an Amish pie squash. Another one there. That one's getting close, but we'll let it keep going. I don't think it's ready yet. Yeah. All right, time to start looking around this fall garden and deciding what I should take off the vines, and before I have to give them to the chickens. I don't mind sharing with the chickens, but squash, I'm growing this for me. Watermelon, I'll be happy to share that with them. I have had plenty so far this summer. Now, one way you can tell if your winter squash is done is to look at the little curlicue that's coming out from the heading stem. And if it's still green and or soft and moist, then it's not completely done. It will be dried up and kind of brittle when the squash is done. And that one isn't dried up and brittle yet, so I'm going to leave this butternut squash to get a little darker orange, and it's a smaller one. This is my baby butternut. It's called Butterbush. Yeah. A little more personal sized, and I really enjoy it because it has the same taste as a butternut. So yeah, if you haven't grown them yet, I encourage you to. And again, unless that curlicue is all dried up, you don't need to harvest it. Although I could harvest this now and let it ripen after cutting it, but I always like to leave things on. Well, obviously I do, as long as possible. And now I just have to kind of curb that and not leave them on too long. Taking these 3 baby butternuts in, maybe cooking one of them for lunch, because, there's nothing that tastes more like fall, perhaps, than butternut squash. All right, in one of my last videos, I showed you guys this volunteer squash plant. It's actually 2 of them. They came up in this bed I wasn't using right outside my back door. So yes, it is growing in the bed, not in this pot where there's some random volunteer lettuce growing. And I've so far harvested one of the squash. Most of them look like this. This one is ready to harvest too. It's getting a little sunburn there, but it'll be fine. So they look kind of like delicata, right, with those stripes. And that's what I thought they were. But I also kind of had a hint that they were hybrid because, look over here, what's growing off the same vines? This squash is. Also, this one. Yeah. I know it looks kind of like a variety of zucchini, but it's super hard, and it was from very early, so I definitely think it's a cross along with that pumpkin-like one. Maybe I'll figure it out at some point. But most of them look like this, and the one I harvested about 2 weeks ago, I was hoping it would taste like delicata, and I cut it open. Well, no, let's back up. I didn't cut it open. I tried to cut it open, but it was so hard that I couldn't get my sharpest knife through it. So I did something that I'd heard you could do, but I'd never done before. I just roasted it whole. And that was great. It split open. It was easy to take the seeds out afterwards. And I had scrumptious roasted squash. And what did it taste like? Well, it didn't taste like a butternut entirely. It tasted about half butternut, and it tasted about half spaghetti squash. So I think I solved my riddle of what it's mixed with. A spaghetti squash mixed with a delicata, and I get these. And then I think the other vine grew that pumpkin-like one and the yellow one I showed you that looked more like a golden zucchini. That's all I can guess, and I haven't tried either of those yet, so I'm not sure what those will taste like. But these growing off this one, I tell you what, they were not as flavorful as a delicata. I have to admit, delicata and butternut are my favorite. I like spaghetti squash, not a huge fan of the texture. And what these were was like sort of half the flavor of each and half the texture of each. So what I did was, after I roasted it, I just put hunks of it in a pot with chunks of potato and some green onion, because with my IBS, I can't have regular onion. And it made the most creamy, luscious soup ever. Super simple. All I added to it was salt, and I threw in a few peas, and I do mean a few because those bother me a little too at the end, but it would have been great even without the peas. Just this squash and some potatoes, water, a little green onion, and salt. Easiest soup ever, and wow, it tasted great. I see some peppers. Cubanelle, I believe, and they are big. I gotta get those off now. Wow, those are massive. It's hard to believe they were growing on this little plant here. Well, now it has a chance to get bigger and grow some new peppers. Meanwhile, I can use these. I know some of my kids are going to enjoy using them either in fried rice or on their burritos that they love to eat every day. Peppers do seem to do really well here long into the fall, so I'm glad I've got some plants that are just starting to produce really good ones. Some of the plants that took a while to take off because of the intense heat we had most of the summer, they're able to produce now because I left them in and they managed to survive. Due to me, I must say, because I kept watering throughout all the heat despite the fact that I didn't really feel like it. But I'm earning the rewards now. I really need to bring the wood chips up from my lower orchard and spread them out over my wood chip paths because I didn't do it last year, and boy, is that showing. I have volunteer plants everywhere. Do you know what all those little plants are? Well, you see those big ones right there? It's the same thing. It's borage. And borage is great for your garden. I mean, absolutely wonderful for enriching your soil. It's beautiful too, the blue flowers with a purplish hue, and oh, what a pollinator attractor too. Yeah, it's super awesome for your garden, but it self-seeds like absolute crazy. Once you have it, you won't get rid of it. It's like okra, it's like amaranth. You know, there's just certain ones, gazania flowers, you know, certain plants, they self-seed like crazy, and borage is one of the top ones. It's also good, by the way, the young leaves like these. Well, you know, not the teeny tiny ones. Let them get a little bigger, and they are fabulous with the cucumber flavor in salad. Very, very nutritious. I did a video actually about them a while back. I can link to that here and in the description. But yeah, I definitely need to do something with them. You can transplant them, but only when they're small. Once they get big like this, you risk quite a high rate of failure with transplanting because they have a really long, thick taproot that does not like to come up. So, you know, I have transplanted a couple of bigger ones like those, but the transplant rates 50-50 or less, probably less. But the young ones, yes, you definitely could dig up a chunk of them and transplant them. But again, be ready because they do just keep spreading, and they really don't need much water at all. I don't water these at all. They just, you know, soak up the residual from when I water the beds that are nearby. So yes, time to get out the wheelbarrow and go down and get some more wood chips and redo my pathways. So this is a very old zucchini plant. It was actually fruiting, one of the first plants I had fruiting way back in June. And I got a ton of zucchini off of it, and I almost took it out because it had started to look terrible. Kind of like these end leaves are here and here. But I cut it back almost to the very base of the trunk, and the plant came back fabulous. And I've had a resurgence of, oh dear, more zucchini. There is a big one. Oh no, two. Yeah, I've had another probably 12 or 14 zucchini off this plant since I cut it back. So when your plants look horrible, yes, you could cut them off the base. I like to leave the roots in because it feeds the soil. But you could also just cut them back, you know, to where there's actually some good growth, new growth like this coming out, and give it a shot, you know, give it a chance to regrow and fruit again because, well, you're not losing anything. It's just, you're just taking a little chance, but it's not hurting anything. What do you got to lose? Nothing. And you might get some more fruit. Like these nice zucchini that are going to make me some either zucchini pecan bread or maybe some zucchini cornmeal fritters. I'll think about that. But yeah, don't give up on your plants too soon. At least, unless you're really tired of them like I am, some of my plants. My cucumbers, they got to go. I just can't take any more of these massive, like 2 foot long, 4 to 5 inch across monster Armenian cucumbers. I've had so many of them, although I will say my chickens adore them. I think they're their new favorite thing. This crepe myrtle got burned alive this summer. Though I watered it every day well, it hated this spot, and it hated 110 to 120, one day 120 degree Fahrenheit weather. It just absolutely was not standing for it, and it burned up. It lost a ton of its leaves, most all of its leaves. However, now that it's starting to cool down to, you know, the mid 90s Fahrenheit, it's blooming and sending out new growth. So it is a survivor, just a little worse for wear. Now the other crepe myrtle here, it was in a better spot. It got more afternoon shade, but it also did not like the weather. So basically it didn't bloom all summer. It is only now sending out a few little blooms, purple and pretty, but again, at least it survived, and I'm going to move these to a better spot for next year. I have to say, of all the zinnia colors, this vivid orange has definitely been my favorite this year. And my hibiscus is starting to bloom. Look at this. Starting to bloom. Oh, there's a bloom right there. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? This is full of buds. And you know, up close, they're just amazing looking. I'm really looking forward to harvesting this plant in the days to come and enjoying some Red Roselle Hibiscus tea. Tell me what your favorite ways to use Red Roselle Hibiscus are. I know that you can make a great jam out of it, or so I've heard. Any of you make jam with it? I've only used it for tea. I'm open to suggestions. All right, gonna take this inside now and make another pot of that great soup. Well, thanks for sticking with me to the end, guys. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, I'd love it if you do so, and hit that notification bell so you'll see whenever I get around to posting again. The goal is every week. I've been debating whether to take that, though, off of my channel banner that I put a new video up every week, because usually I'm very good about that. But there comes a time once in a while when life creeps in and I look up at the calendar and go, oh, whoops. So I don't know, I might take that off, or I might just hunker down and make sure I do it from now on, because I have lots of ideas on things to share with you. Oh, so many, including I have a bunch of footage I took from the first time I went to the mountain valley that I'm thinking of moving to, including the Feather River that runs nearby it. And it's gorgeous. I want to share it with you, but I'm planning another trip really soon. And I thought, you know, I could get some shots actually in the town as well and put that in the video. So that might be coming up soon. And I have plans to show you what I'm going to be doing with some of my amaranth here. I've already done it with some, but I have more amaranth ready to harvest. And I don't know, maybe you've never seen amaranth harvested before. It's pretty easy. And amaranth makes a great grain to eat, like a hot cereal, but also can be made into flour, a great gluten-free flour. And so, yeah, I'm going to share that with you too real soon. So go ahead and subscribe if you haven't. And if you have, hey, if you enjoyed the video at all, give it a like. I'd really appreciate that too. Now, remember, you, like me and like everyone else, can create the life you want. So why not start right now, right where you are, in any way that you can, because every step gets you closer to your goal. Enjoy the coming week, and I will see you again next time. I've made the chickens happy anyway, and that makes me happy. One of the perks of having a big garden is that even if we can't eat it all, or I miss some of it, the chickens really do enjoy it.